Looks like we're at the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and get started. Good day and welcome everyone to our Gimmal education session. My name is Victor from our customer success team. Our goal of this session is to, of course, enhance your expertise with our Gimmal software. Just a reminder, this session is being recorded and it will be shared after the event. Today, Tim Butler will be our subject matter expert and he'll be demonstrating transferring in Gimmal Physical. Tim will be discussing Gimmal's 3 distinct metadata fields that reference the location of an item. So the format for this session will be 15 to 20 minutes of demonstration, followed by 10 minutes of questions. Please post your questions in the Q&A section of your Zoom, and we will address them after the demo. Without further ado, Tim, you can take it away.
All right, thanks, Victor. Appreciate it. Let me start sharing my screen here. Get that guy working and share. All right, good. And we'll reduce that guy. All right, good. Excellent. So, hey, everyone, I appreciate again you guys spending some of your time with us here today. So good morning or good afternoon, whatever the case may be for you. And as Victor said, we are going to focus on one particular activity today in Gimmal Physical, which we call the transfer. Just to kind of level set, I think everybody knows this, but let's just ensure, really anytime you move anything in Gimmal Physical, we refer to that as a transfer. So whether you're packing a box full of files, you're checking a box out of a warehouse, or you're moving a box from shelf to shelf, or a file from person to person, anytime you move anything, it is a transfer. You could be calling it check-in, you could be calling it checkout. And one quick additional note for those of you on the very latest versions of Gimmal Physical, you actually can change these action button captions. So it's possible you may have changed your caption away from transfer, but that's how it looks out of the box. And to kind of just provide the framework, guys, for our conversation here today, there's lots of metadata properties that you can set that affect the transferring process. And I want to just walk through one quick example. We'll use that as a launching pad to get into all the details that affect how you transfer within Gimmal Physical. So here I am on the Boxes tab, guys. I do have the ability to create a box, so I'm going to click on the Create button here. And we're going to use this creation of a box process and a couple transfers to highlight the differences between current, home, and a hub location. So I do have a required field here for record series. I'm going to have to choose something. Just going to grab whatever, not particularly concerned with that. And I don't think anything else here is required. Double check in, it is not. So I'm going to go ahead and save and view this record that I just typed in. So the creation of a box, standard stuff there, nothing out of the ordinary whatsoever. Here we get our confirmation message. You can clear the confirmation message and then land on the view page for the box. Here's really where I wanted to draw your attention, right? So I just created this box brand new. Now I am logged in as our CEO, Craig Carpenter. He's my kind of fictitious user. To that end, notice that the current location is Craig, right? Because if Craig was the one doing the data entry, well, in all likelihood, the current location, where is it right now, is indeed with Craig. We also like to know not only where something is, right, the box in this case, but where it belongs, right? One of the prime reasons you have Gimmal Physical is to make sure you keep track of your stuff, whatever your stuff happens to be. In our example, we're looking at boxes. So we always want to know, of course, where it is, but we'd like to know also where it belongs. And we actually kind of contrast and compare these two fields to drive other logic in the software. There are reports, for example, that show you all of the boxes that are currently checked out. Well, very simply, what we do is just simply compare these two fields. And if they're not the same, it must be a checked out box. We use it to drive kind of the overdue functionality when you've had things checked out too long and some other factors as well. So current locations with Craig, home location, where does it belong, is record center. In just a moment, we're going to come back here and show you how these got set. But before we do, I want to just briefly mention hub location. Current location, pretty self-explanatory, right? Where is it? Home location also, easy to understand. Where does it belong? Hub location, guys, is in the application. It is designed for those of you that have multiple warehouses or storage facilities, be they offsite or onsite. And then in tandem with that, you have varying individuals who respond to requests for records in those disparate warehouses. Well, if I'm Joe Schmo and I'm managing warehouse A, I probably don't care about requests for records that are in warehouse B and vice versa. We won't have time today to get into all the details of hub location, but know that its purpose in life is to kind of direct the workflow of requests. It serves a couple of other purposes, but primarily it serves that purpose for driving the workflow request itself. So created a brand new box here with here it's Craig, Record Center incoming. Now let's take this box that I just created, and I'm going to skip a couple steps because our time is limited. Let's actually go ahead. In real life, Craig would have hopefully issued what's known as a request for pickup, depending upon the details of how your processes are. But we're just going to go ahead and take this box as is and transfer him away from Craig. And let's move him to that record center incoming, because that's been designated as the home location. So I'm going to choose that off of the list here. I get the barcode, the unique value for that location, and then click on transfer. So once this record has been transferred, then when we go back, and we'll just quickly get our confirmation, clear that out of the way. And let's grab this record one more time right here. And go back to the view page just to highlight once again. We scroll down just a bit. We've got our current location now is record center incoming because I just transferred it there. The home location is still what we initially set as record center incoming, but to make it slightly realistic, or a lot realistic, right? Let's actually take this box and take it out of the home location of record center incoming. Let's do one more transfer and actually put this guy on a shelf. Much more realistic scenario. I'm just going to, again, I'm going to come back in a little bit and tell you all the options here, but for now, just to get through the preliminaries, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it. In fact, you know what I want to do? I want to make sure I actually get a valid shelf. I could have possibly fallen into my own trap. So let me clear this guy here. Come on. You can do it. There we go. All right, let's pull some shelves. I'm going to grab one of these shelves here on the mezzanine. Again, all I really need is a unique identifier for where we're transferring this to. Wow, get a little bit slow today. I blame CrowdStrike. And let's transfer this thing over to a shelf. Once the transfer is complete here, guys, we'll take one more look at this record so we can highlight yet one more piece of metadata here. Specifically, we're going to take a look at that hub location. So let's go back to that view page one more time. And if we scroll down, notice now the current location is that shelf. The home location is also that shelf, but now we've also got hub location filled because these shelves are within that hub location. Now, it does take a little bit of configuration to make all this work. And again, we'll have to just set that aside for now. Specifically over on the locations tab, you do have to designate certain locations as hub locations. In the case of shelves, you do have to transfer those shelves into the hub location to make all this work. But what we just walked through there, guys, is a pretty standard workflow, highlighting the differences between current, home, and hub location. Now, I actually kind of brought you into the middle of the story just so we could kind of look at those three pieces of metadata. I want to back you up in time here a little bit and bring you into preferences. As most of you are aware, lots of things, more than 100 items you can actually set here or change within preferences that affect a lot of things for sure. But in addition, they also affect some things related to our topic today of transferring. Number one, little tiny thing, but just so you're aware of it, right? If we focus on this particular preference here, it says, hey, confirmation when transferring records. You hopefully noticed as I transferred that box, I kept getting a message box that says, hey, one transfer successful. That's helpful, but after a while, frankly, you probably get a little tired of seeing that message box. So appreciate you can come in the preferences and you can change that yes to a no. So you no longer have that extra click or the extra depressing of the enter key to remove that message. Appreciate you can do that for transfer. You can also get rid of that confirmation message for a number of other items as well. Also wanted to call out, let's go back to preferences to the boxes section itself. So when I first created that box, guys, you noticed, hopefully, it said that the current location was Craig Carpenter. Well, where did that come from? It came from this preference right here. I've got my demo app set up, Craig Carpenter's barcode happens to be that string of characters super user. So for those of you not already aware, you want to set this generally and typically at a user level. So each user who does data entry, as soon as they create a box or a file or what have you, the default current will show it to be them. But then ideally, you also would like to set the default home location. Now, for a lot of you, this simply could be your single warehouse, be it your own warehouse, or it could be an Iron Mountain or an offsite vendor. And so you could kind of just make this a system-wide setting. If you do have multiple storage facilities, then you probably don't want to do that. You'd want to choose either user or role specification. And then again, same basic idea, provide the barcode of that place. These preference settings are what enabled me to know right from the get-go where it was and where it belonged. Another preference while we're here, guys, that may be of interest to you, for those of you who do a lot of transferring, and in particular, if you find yourself always transferring to the same place, you may have some kind of workflow set up. This is an opportunity here for you that you can specify a default so that when you go to the transfer page itself in the application interface, the magic box, and I'll come back and show you the magic box in just a moment, it is already pre-filled. It just saves you a little bit of time in terms of the transfer itself. One other preference I'll call out while we're here is this guy, this auto query on transfer and request pages. Just kind of tuck that one away. We'll come back to him in just a moment. So overall, a number of preferences that you can set, guys, that do affect the transfer functionality itself. Let's come back to the boxes tab one more time here and highlight some options that you have. I'm going to go back to the transfer page. And what I always tell people when you're moving items, in my simple example here, I'm moving a single box. In the end, all we really need, and this is what I call the magic box, we need the barcode, the unique ID of wherever it is you want to transfer this item to. Now, via the preference you just saw, if I had set the default, it would have pre-populated for me. So be aware of that. It might already be showing a value when you land on here. Option number two, believe it or not, we don't really advertise this, but you can do this. If you happen to know the barcode of where you want to transfer it, you could actually type it in, right? Just grab your keyboard and type out that string of letters or numbers or what have you. So that works. If you happen to have a barcode scanner attached, you could use the barcode scanner, and you also have a barcode that you could scan. You could scan that to fill this box. More likely, though, what you're going to do, guys, on this page is you can use this convenience control, right? And this is what I did in my examples just a little bit ago. I'll go ahead and just grab a different shelf this time for this guy. And you'll notice when I choose from that list, it populates that. And then, so besides the default, besides typing it in, besides barcode scanning it in, besides this convenience control, again, dependent upon your security, you can also go to this universal control and you can search across whether it's a person you want to transfer it to, a different shelf you want to transfer it to, a place, or in my demo application, I've actually got some palettes set up as well. In the end, guys, regardless of how you choose to do it, we need this box filled, right? This is what makes transferring work, is you telling us by virtue of the unique barcode of the location where it is you want to transfer this to. Now, one other little conversation while we're on this page. I want to spend just a minute or two talking about this make home location. So you recall, right, guys, when we created a box, it had a current location, it had a home location, both of which were set in preferences. Again, I think most of you know this, but in case you don't, when you move something, that is, you alter its current location, there are certain scenarios, and I actually did one if you were paying real close attention, that when you transfer, and I'll give you the prime examples, whenever you put anything onto a shelf, be it a file or a box, we just assume that you kind of mean that to be a semi-permanent transfer. That is, the item's going to live there for quite some time. So not only are you changing the current location, but under the hood, we are also actually changing the home location automatically for you. So again, anytime you put anything on a shelf, we will automatically change the home location. Or if you put a file into a box, right? Same basic idea. We assume if you're putting files in a box, you assume for those, we assume those files will live in that box for a long time. So those are done automatically for you. There's nothing automatically done across the board whenever you transfer files or boxes to either users or locations, or my example, palettes. However, what you can do on these tabs, I won't have the time to do it now, but usually on your locations tab in particular, if there are certain locations that every time you transfer anything to that location, not only do you mean to change the current location, but you also would like to change the home location, there's a little checkbox over on the locations tab that allows you for select location records to check make home location. That means when items get transferred to that location, we will change the home location for you as well. Outside of all of those kind of preset automated ways of changing the home location, you can also do this kind of thing. Let me actually grab a user instead of a shelf or a location here. Let's bring up some user records. I'm going to grab Jason off the list here. So in this example, I'm taking this box wherever it was before. I want to check it out to Jason. Notice, however, the make home location checkbox. Guys, it's on this page for those one-off situations where you really want to say, hey, you know what, Gimmal Physical, not only do I want to give it to Jason right now, I'm kind of giving it to him permanently. He's just going to keep that record from now on. So a bunch of ways for you to change or auto change that home location. And then, of course, you can process the transfer. Now, underpinning all of this, guys, thought about starting with this, but security is always a little bit overwhelming. So I'm kind of saving it here towards the tail end of the presentation. Everything I just did presupposes that you have the rights to transfer, right? And the rights to transfer correspond to these two buttons right here, transfer and transfer home. So very quickly, guys, let's jump into admin. Let's go into roles and permissions. Let's grab the role that I'm in. And there's really two things I want to highlight here under security itself. Number one is just the overall right to transfer tab by tab, right? So if I scroll down here far enough and I get to box related actions in this role, make sure that that right is checked. That's what will enable people in this role to see those two transfer buttons, transfer and transfer home. Secondarily, and much more nuanced, most of you will have what are known as secured lists in your application. In my demo application, on the Boxes tab, I have a secured list called Box Status. And what these secured lists enable you to do is to grant or deny functionality based upon the status of a record or other pieces of metadata. In my example, the Boxes tab, there's a list called Box Status. There's 5 different statuses. Notice if I go over to the right there, here is the transfer action. So what I could do, even though the users in this role have the ability to transfer, I could remove the right to transfer in certain scenarios, namely when the status of the box is approved confidential. This is known as a secured list. It's easily the most complex security construct we have, but in the right situation can be very powerful. So be aware of this, that this could affect your transferring functionality as well. 2 more quick kind of miscellaneous things, guys, and I am keeping one eye on the clock here to save a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. 2 other miscellaneous things I want to make sure I call out. In the examples we did here today, guys, we were using this transfer action button. But you can also, and I'll grab this record right here, this third one down that's currently checked out to Craig. So if I wanted to, I could select the record, I could click on transfer on the ensuing page, I could then go choose record center incoming. That works, but it's extra steps. As sort of a convenience feature, you can also use this transfer home capability. Remember, we know where the home is. That is, if you set your preferences up properly, it can save you a couple clicks just to say, hey, Gimmal Physical, put this thing back where it belongs. In this case, where it belongs is record center incoming. So you can save a couple of clicks by simply using that transfer home button. Couple of other kind of 401 level stuff, guys, that I'll throw in covering the whole transfer or change. There's my confirmation that I just changed or transferred that guy back home. to the record center incoming. Couple of advanced features you probably ought to be aware of. In addition to what I quickly showed you here today, all done via the application interface, there are other ways to record the movement of items in Gimmal Physical. One of them, I briefly mentioned it earlier, rather than using the mouse and the keyboard the way I am here, is of course you can use barcode scanners. That could be tethered, wireless, or portable barcode scanners. Really difficult to demo those over the internet. I'm not going to try today, but appreciate those guys. Their primary purpose for living very often is to simply indicate the movement of items. So be aware of that, of course. Some of you may not be aware that the import utility that's native to the application, although most folks do use it for importing brand new data or for updating existing data, you can actually use the import utility to indicate a change in location. That would be known as an update import. So be aware that you can do that. More details behind that, let us know if you're interested in doing that. And then finally, guys, one more quick thing I'll point out. On occasion, we will have clients that say things like, oh man, Tim, we totally messed up. We have like 5,000 items that are in the wrong place. How do I get them in the right place? Now, you could do it by transfer, but transfer only works page by page. And we have upped the amount of records per page recently to 500, but you are still capped at 500. So kind of a backdoor way if you're interested, but be aware it's a powerful tool, right? And the powerful tool is used for good, it's also used for evil. You can actually record the movement or the transfer of items via the use of bulk update. So you come to bulk update, in addition to all the fields you would think you would see, if you scroll down here far enough, you'll see that there is a way for you via bulk update. You could either just type in the barcode, scan in the barcode, you could go search for it and specify whatever the unique identifier is, either for current or a home location. So be aware of that. Those edge cases, when you just want to change the location of a lot of stuff, you might call bulk update into action. Wow, time has flown. One more point I want to make, guys, just to make sure we're kind of covered all our bases here. On the request page, right, and I think you all know this, of course, requests are always optional. But for those of you using the request functionality, we do give you a shortcut right from the request page here itself. If you choose one or more of these and then click the fulfill, this is just another word for transfer, guys. We could have called it transfer. I don't know why we decided to call it fulfill way back in the day. But whenever you choose the fulfill option on the request page itself, it has the same impact as if you had transferred that record back over on the home page grid. All right, that's 99% of stuff that covers transfer. There's some other nooks and crannies, guys, but we are basically out of time. Saving a few minutes here for some Q&A. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Victor to facilitate the Q&A and then close us out.
Sure. Thank you, Tim, for the presentation today. Got a handful of questions in the Q&A. So let me just grab one. Okay, so if you have an agency with 20 different users creating boxes, can you set the preferences setting for the default home location to be one location so that the pickup reports will reflect all the items at one user?
Yeah, excellent question. And if I understand the question, if all, I'll make it up, right? But if all those users are in the same agency and the pickup location happens to be the front desk of that building or the loading dock of that building, the answer is yes. You could do it person by person, but depending upon how you set your system up, you could also potentially do it role by role to save you a little bit of time. If all of those agency users are in the same role, you could change the scope of that particular preference, use the scope, let's come back down the boxes, use the scope of role level, and this guy, oops, default, current, default, home, and default. Any of these you can change the scope from user over to role. Just depends on which way you want to go with that. I hope I answered that question. If not, please put some more comments in the chat. We'll tackle it again.
Yes, of course. Let's see, Tim, got another one for you. When transferring a file, when we transfer a file from, let's say, the current location to a user, only the current location is updated, and the home location, let's say a box does not get updated. When we transfer a file to a box, both locations get updated, but we don't want this to happen. How do we solve this?
Whoa, okay, so I want to talk to that, whoever you are, in detail, because I know I flew through it really fast, guys, but the default behavior of the application is every time you put a file in a box, we will automatically change the home location. If what you just asked translates to, no, Tim, we don't want to do that, please query us offline. We'll talk to you in detail, making sure you want to do that first of all, and then how we can make that happen for you.
Thanks, Tim. Another question here. So on our role list security, we have the tabs record schedule and legal hold. We do not have box status. How can box status be added to the modify list security to restrict box transferring to a certain box status?
Ooh, awesome question. So under admin, guys, let's jump in there. There's a section called Field Display Advanced. And so if what you're saying is that in your particular configuration, now, if you're saying we don't have a box status field at all, you need to talk to Gimmal Client Success to get that field added. You may actually have a hidden field, because often we deploy with a number of hidden fields, and you could simply then unhide the drop-down list, change its caption to box status. But really where I wanted to go is, in either case, if you have a hidden field or you've already got a field there, what you can then do for that particular field, there's a couple of options here. To make it a secured list, you cannot do that on this page all by yourself. There's many things you can change about the metadata properties, but to make it a secured list, you need to contact Gimmal about that. But again, if you already have a secured list that's simply hidden, you can then come in here, you'd make it, would have this hide in application already checked, you would uncheck it. That would then enable you under admin list values to populate it with whatever values it is that you want. And then once you populate with the values, as the last step, you'd come in here, you would then see that secured list field show up for each role, so that you could click the security buttons there to set action by action for each role what it is you want to allow people to do. Sorry, really long-winded answer. I hope that made sense for folks.
Thank you, Tim. And one more. Can you transfer different items to different locations at the same time?
No, not through the application interface. Really, really hard no there. One exception, if you're using a portable barcode scanner, have at it. You can, in one big scanning session, you can put as many items in as many varying locations as you want. But for all the other options, whether it's the mouse and the keyboard, the tethered scanner, using the bulk update, all of those are designed to take as many items as you want. Well, at least with bulk update, take as many items as you want and transfer all of them to a singular new location.
Thanks, Tim. Looks like we are out of questions right now. So I just want to thank everyone for attending today, and we hope that you enjoyed this session. As always, we'll send the recording out, so be on the lookout for that. And as a reminder, these sessions are offered twice monthly across our products, Records, Physical, and Discover. So feel free to join any session if you're currently not utilizing the product. You can see our next education series is going to be August 8th, focusing on Gimmal Discover. Then we have one upcoming on the 22nd of August for records. And then lastly, September 12th, which would be physical again on requesting. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, or otherwise, you can email us at success@gimmal.com. Or if you want to get in touch with Marcia directly, marcia.shields@gimmal.com. Again, thanks everyone, and have a great day.